Good afternoon. I trust we are all well and we're ready for today's webinar dealing with child custody. You are welcome to pose your question and I will try my best to answer it. Today's webinar had to be on gender-based violence. However, my guest was unable to do the webinar due to load shedding on her part. We will obviously have it next week and we can continue with that specific topic, being gender-based violence, a serious problem in South Africa and one which I hope will be lessened in the near future. Nonetheless, today's topic is child custody. I am taking live questions on Facebook Live. If you have any questions regarding the issue of child custody, a personal issue, or you'd like to have some clarity on a matter, or answer or ask a question on behalf of somebody else, you are welcome to do so. I will try my best to answer the questions. The way you pose the questions is on the Advocate Muhammad Abdurrauf Facebook page. You should see it on your screen on the top left-hand corner. Alternatively, you may type into your browser of your computer or on your phone www.abdurrauf.co.za/live, and it should redirect your browser to the relevant Facebook Live page. Please do so, and you are welcome to pose a question. If you, however, are not interested in posing a question, at least not right now, please listen in and partake in this webinar. It can be very useful. It will be very useful should you have any child custody questions, etc. Let us begin. Firstly, I like to answer questions based upon the queries I had during the day. Not answer questions, I like to discuss issues based upon the queries I had today, either based upon a matter I attended to at court, alternatively a face-to-face consultation or a virtual consultation, which seems to be prevalent these days via Zoom, Facebook Teams, Skype, sometimes WhatsApp video, and discuss those specific topics. It's very useful to do so because my mind obviously would be fresh and fresh based upon the topic. It will most probably be exhausted right now, and I would be able to engage with you in such a manner whereby you would understand the problem which has arisen and also apply to your specific circumstances. Many people mention to me, clients mention to me, that their current or present situation is very complicated and they do not understand what it entails, how to resolve it. I understand fully what they're saying. It is like someone who never used a computer before. You give him the computer and you ask him to load some documentation on it or start a PC and browse the web. But this specific person never ever used a computer before. He does not understand, or she does not understand, the language applicable, and so on. Therefore, obviously, it's complicated, and he or she might have to learn the process. Now, in learning the process, it needs to be done. However, it needs to be done in a very simplistic and logical manner so that the person will understand it. There are many legal articles written out there. Some of them are very well written, very systematic. You understand the law very easily after you have read those articles, and some articles are a bit hard to understand. It's drafted for a lawyer, for somebody with a legal background, and not for the layperson. So these videos are basically focused on lay people, people who do not have any legal experience, any specific experience regarding court matters, litigation, etc. And hopefully you can benefit from that. Let's start with the general question which a person will be posed with, is basically, what rights do I have regarding my child? A client asked me this morning, do you have 50-50 rights in relation to your child? Is that what the law says? I struggle to answer that question based solely on the fact that of my years of experience in family law matters. How do you argue and how do you stipulate that someone will have 50-50, my phone is ringing, 50-50 rights regarding a child? You can't cut the child in half. Therefore, my answer to the specific person who asked, basically, the law does not say the mother has more rights regarding the child or the father has more rights regarding the child. The law does not say that. What the law is saying is both parents have equal rights regarding the child, and hopefully they can come to an agreement and a resolution on how to exercise those rights. It is the same manner if two people own a car jointly, so both parties paid for the car together. They're equal owner regarding the car, so they technically have equal rights regarding the car. However, they cannot drive the car at the same time. Not both of them can be in the steering wheel at the same time. They can't use the car at the same time. It might be the same thing which I mentioned earlier on. Therefore, although they have co-ownership regarding this vehicle, they still need to come to some type of an agreement regarding how they're going to share this vehicle. And the same applies to a minor child. Going back to the car scenario, it might be more logical for one party to use the car during the day because he or she might not be working during the day, and for the other party to only use the car or the vehicle during the weekends because he or she does not work during the weekends and is available to enjoy the car during the weekends. So therefore, in relation to a minor child, the same principle applies. If I must use a scenario, you need to work out how can we jointly share in regard to the minor child. Yes, we both have rights, but how can we make it work? I work 9 to 5, the other party works 3 to 7 in the evening. I am available on weekends, every weekend, but the other party is only available on a Sunday because the business is closed on a Sunday and they work on a Saturday. The parties need to come to an agreement. If they cannot come to an agreement, yes, you can still argue and say they both have equal rights, but we need to come to an agreement regarding contact and care. And if the court gets involved, the court would have to make a decision as to what is best for the minor child. And in making that decision, the court might have to say, unfortunately, under these circumstances, I am of the view that the minor child should primarily reside with the one parent, and the other parent should have contact and care rights X, Y, and Z. Could be once a month, once a year, once a week, every day, whatever the case may be. Then it might equate to you only spending time with the child half the time or quarter of the time. If you see the minor child every second weekend, it would mean that you only see the minor child 4 days a month, 5-6 days a month, not 50-50. Therefore, it's advisable for parents to know you have rights, you have equal rights regarding your child. However, if there is a dispute, however, if the parties are separated and you're not living in the same home, you live in different areas, and these are the facts, the dynamics, the age of the child, the needs of the child. The child might be attending extramural activities, sports, swimming, soccer, rugby, and that would impact on how the parties will have contact to the minor child. Now, in the same way, a parent can say, I have rights to my minor child, but if the child is at school, you can't keep the child out of school for your sake so that you can spend time with the child. The child needs to go to school. If the child needs to attend to certain type of sporting activities, the child must go to those specific sporting activities. You can't say, I want to spend time with the child during that Saturday mornings when he goes to soccer because I am the parent. That's not in the minor child's best interest. If it's necessary, if there's no other specific times which you can have contact to the minor child, and it would be in the minor child's best interest to have contact with one parent and basically not exercise a sport, then that would be in the minor child's best interest. But you cannot cut the child in half. It is very unfortunate that parents cannot see eye to eye when it comes to the minor child, and a third party, a mediator, a social worker, psychologist, or office of a family advocate has to get involved Alternatively, a judge or a magistrate has to get involved and resolve these parents' issues. How does the judge know what's best for the child? All that he sees is he reads paperwork, he spent a few hours perusing the documentation, whatever amount of time he spent or she spent on it, and he engages with the advocates. And in a period of 2, 3, 4 hours, he should make a decision that affects the minor child, affects the parents, affects everyone. Are the courts the best solution to resolving the problems that you and the mother have because you cannot resolve it? Of course, you must go to court if the parties can't resolve the issue. But at the same time, I would advise you try to resolve these specific issues on your own. Therefore, today's topic, as I mentioned earlier on, is child custody child custody questions. You are welcome to pose whatever questions you have on Facebook Live, as I mentioned earlier on. I think everybody is now in the live chat, and if you have any questions, please feel free to pose it. Following on from what I mentioned earlier on, when it comes to child custody issues, the courts, the law, the Constitution, the Children's Act, it specifically states that a minor child's best interest is of paramount importance. In every matter concerning a minor child, the child's best interest is looked at first and foremost, not what the parents want and not what is in the best interest of the parents. What is best for the minor children is what will be applied and given effect to. Obviously, it is within reason. Regarding child maintenance, you can't spend your entire salary for the minor child so that the minor child can have very expensive tastes, eat very extravagantly, dress very extravagantly. Of course not, within reason. We have to look at all circumstances, and once the court has determined that a specific custody arrangement, a specific care and contact arrangement would be best for the minor child, the court would make such an order. But that is what the court has to determine, what is best for the minor child. Now, moving on to that beyond that specific principle, what generally happens? A couple, they have a minor child. The child is, brought up in the household, if that is a scenario, and then the couple experiences problems. This is where challenges occurs. They experience problems, they separate, and their problems overpowers their logic, and they focus on what is best for the minor child. They start seeing the minor child as the weapon, as the pawn in the equation, and what they do is they cannot physically fight with the other party, for lack of a better scenario. They would use the minor child as a means to inflict emotional, psychological damage to the other party because of the problems they have. That's just my general assumption. Of course, many other times the scenario might be different, but that is what happens. And I pose a question in a care and custody issue. I would ask the party, while you guys were together and you had this minor child, quite young, a year old, and one parent had to go away for work purposes, either overseas, alternatively, they had to go to a different province, but for a few days, and the parent has to care for the minor child. Let's say in the scenario with the father. Wonderful. Mother has no problem. If she has a child from a previous relationship, that's fine as well. The father can care for that child, his child of 1 year old, and the child in the previous relationship. What generally happens is the parties separate, they have problems. A week after they separated, the mother, for argument's sake, refuses contact. I'm not generalizing here, I'm just using a scenario. The opposite can also apply. She refuses contact, parties go to court, and then the question gets posed. You had no issue a few months ago with the father having contact with the minor child overnight, but now because you guys have separated, you have an issue. So the logic is a bit, tainted. It's not no more longer logic. In my view, and I've used a scenario once, when couples are young, teenagers, they have a certain type of logic which doesn't make sense. And it seems to me that that specific logic sometimes comes out later when the parties have disputes. I'm not being facetious here. This is what I see on a regular basis. I'm mentioning this to you as viewers so that you can think. More than likely, you are a reasonable person and other parties unreasonable. That scenario is applicable. However, I urge parties to act reasonable and rational and do not use a minor child as a pawn, as a means of inflicting harm, psychological harm, emotional harm to the other party, sometimes financial harm, financial abuse, whereby one party will take the other party to court in order to cripple that person financially. Whatever the case may be, do not use a minor child as a pawn. What I would advise you to do, if your mind is being clouded, if you feel that things are a bit stressed out over here, I'm acting differently than how I've acted many years ago or many months ago when you and the other party was still together, seek professional help. Obtain the services of a mediator, see someone who can assist you regarding entering into a parenting plan, and so on. Therefore, moving forward on the issue concerning child custody and questions, I would strongly advise parties to not go to court unless it's absolutely necessary. Try to resolve these matters on your own as best as you can. So therefore, if there is any problems and the matters cannot be resolved, approach the court and the court will hopefully be able to assist you. That is our video on today. I see no questions, which is always, I'm happy for that, because it means that I've explained my scenario reasonably well. However, tomorrow we will have our webinar will be a bit later. Today was a bit early because I have to attend to some other matters. However, if you are online tomorrow, a bit later, around 6:30, I think yesterday's webinar was about 6:30. When people are available, they are back at home, please feel free to join in and pose whatever questions you have regarding child custody or child maintenance, and I will try my best to answer that for you. Thank you very much for your time.